BioShock is one of my favorite games of all time, and the BioShock trilogy is one of my favorite video game series of all time. I fell in love with it when I played the game years ago, and I recently came back to it so I could recomplete all of the games again. Because of this, I knew that I wanted to cover the first BioShock game as soon as possible, and thought it would be a great starting point for this series. Little did I know that covering the full scope of this game's version distinctions was actually going to be a lot more confusing than I originally thought when going into this video. But don't worry, I've compiled all of the information that you need to know, no matter what version of the game you play, that will help you best earn all of BioShock's achievements. Before I talk about what you'll need to get all of BioShock's achievements, I want to bring up all the various different versions of the game. Going into this video, I was under the impression that the original BioShock was normalized in terms of all the various content that was available in the different versions of the game. How naive I was. As I continued to do research, I learned that the original release of BioShock was actually a bit more complicated, with various different versions existing, and some of them having different amounts of content and achievements. We are going to specifically be looking at two achievements that are the main culprits of this: A Man Chooses and I Chose the Impossible. These achievements are unlocked for beating the game on Survivor difficulty, as well as beating the game on Survivor difficulty with Vita Chambers turned off. I'll explain more what that means in a little bit. Originally, BioShock was released for the Xbox 360 and Windows back in 2007. I was 4 years old when the game came out, which is really sad for me to think about. However, a year later, a port of the game was released for the PlayStation 3 that actually contained an exclusive difficulty called Survivor. This was the hardest difficulty in the game. The two achievements that I just mentioned previously were actually tied to this difficulty, making them also PlayStation exclusive achievements. This was also the version of the game that received exclusive paid DLC in the form of the challenge rooms with its own set of achievements. So, if you wanted a copy of the original game with all of the content and all of the achievements, you would have had to get a PS3 version of the game. Fortunately, a savior was brought forth sometime later. A bundled version of the original BioShock 1 and BioShock 2 with all of their DLC contained in the package, called the Ultimate Rapture Edition. This was released for both the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, giving Xbox players the long-awaited access to the DLC that had previously been exclusive to them. If you want to play the original game, this is the version that you'd want. But there is still a catch. Even though the 360 version now had all of the DLC that was previously exclusive, it still did not have those two exclusive PlayStation achievements tied to beating Survivor difficulty. This means that PlayStation players will always, no matter what version of the game you're playing, have two extra achievements to unlock, 3 if you're counting the Platinum, regarding beating the game on Survivor difficulty. In 2016, BioShock The Collection was released, finally bundling all 3 games together and all of their DLC. This collection actually featured remastered versions of BioShock 1 and 2, which count as separate games, meaning that they have their own achievement list. The achievement list for BioShock 1 Remastered is the same as the original, however there are a few small differences included in that one that I'll go over later in the video. It's also worth mentioning that the Steam version of BioShock Remastered also has access to the 2 exclusive PlayStation achievements, making the Xbox One copy the only one that does not have those 2 achievements. For this video, I'm going to break down everything you need to know to get all of the achievements in the original BioShock, moving on to the DLC afterwards. Since Remastered is pretty much the same game, this breakdown will work for that as well. BioShock 1's main campaign has 51 achievements to earn, 53 if you're including the 2 extra Survivor difficulty achievements. To get them all, you will need to beat the game on the hardest difficulty with Vita Chambers turned off, save all 21 little sisters and deal with their big daddies, collect all 122 audio diaries, collect all 58 tonics, find all 12 weapon upgrades, purchase all 16 plasmid and tonic slots, fully research every enemy type, hack 50 machines, invent 100 items, as well as a few miscellaneous tasks here and there. The Challenge Room DLC adds 12 more achievements, 4 for each of the 3 challenge rooms, bringing up our total to 63, or 65. These are all a bit more specific, so we'll talk about them more in detail during that section of the video. It is very likely that the achievements that give players the hardest time will be the ones tied to beating the game on either hard or survivor with Vita Chambers turned off. For those that don't know, Vita Chambers are basically BioShock's checkpoint system. When you pass by a Vita Chamber, it will light up, and if you die, you will respawn back at the most recently passed Vita Chamber. Turning these off makes it so that when you die, you are actually just dead. You'll have to reload a previous save and continue where you left off from there. Fortunately, the game lets you basically save whenever you want, and you will have way more save slots than you will ever need playing the game. So, as long as you're careful and you save often, not having Vita Chambers really just becomes more of an annoyance than anything, and only if you're not careful and die, losing a lot of progress. The real issue is actually beating Survivor difficulty. When it comes to getting all of the achievements in the main campaign, it is entirely possible to get them all in one playthrough. However, is this something that I would recommend? If you are not playing the game on Survivor difficulty, then yes. In my opinion, I don't really think hard difficulty is that hard, and it actually feels like the difficulty that the game was balanced around. It's very doable even if you haven't played BioShock before. Survivor difficulty is a much different story. This mode is actually very challenging, and it's going to be quite difficult to accomplish everything doing this difficulty, especially if Vita Chambers are disabled. Since the complete versions of the original game have 2 achievements for beating Survivor, one for beating it normally and one for beating it with Vita Chambers turned off, it's definitely not a bad idea to do 2 playthroughs. One to get all of the other collectibles and achievements in the game, and one where you just play the game on Survivor difficulty with Vita Chambers disabled and solely focus on beating the game with no other distractions. Playing the game on Survivor will unlock all of the difficulty related achievements below it, so you don't have to worry about that. With all of that said, the bottom line is that you're going to have to play the game on the hardest difficulty with Vita Chambers disabled, no matter which version of the game you're playing, if you want to get all of the difficulty related achievements. The only other playthrough related achievements are tied to how you deal with all of the game's 21 little sisters, BioShock's main moral dilemma. One achievement is for dealing with all of the little sisters in any capacity, either rescuing or harvesting them. Another one is for actually saving all of them. So if you want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, it's best to just save all of the little sisters in your one playthrough where you're trying to get everything. This will also have some extra benefits which we'll explain in a little bit. Let's move on to collectibles. BioShock's main collectible is the audio diary, and there are 122 of them that you're going to have to pick up throughout all of the levels. All you need to do is pick up all 122 and you'll net yourself the Historian achievement. It is important to note that while BioShock lets you revisit levels that you've previously completed, there are actually 2 levels in the game that you cannot go back to once you leave them. And those are Welcome to Rapture, which is basically just the game's intro sequence, and Rapture Central Control. These areas contain 2 and 3 audio diaries respectively, so if you don't pick up these 5 diaries while you're in these levels, they're actually going to be unobtainable after you beat them. The rest of the 117 audio diaries can be picked up at any point before starting the game's final sequence. You will know when that's about to happen, the game makes it very clear, so don't worry about that. There are also 58 tonics that can be collected through various means. 30 of them are scattered about the levels, 11 of them can be purchased at Gatherer's Garden stations, 3 are invented at U-Invent machines, 9 of them are unlocked by researching enemies, we'll talk about research more later, and the remaining 5 come from gifts given by little sisters that you have rescued. This means that if you want all of the game's tonics, you're going to have to save all the little sisters anyways, so this option is still the clear winner in terms of the most efficient completion route. Getting all of the tonics will earn you the Tonic Collector achievement. I will mention that there is a bit of an odd discrepancy with this achievement though. Every Xbox version of the game has the number of tonics that you need to collect at 53 instead of 58. This number comes from the fact that the game originally only had 53 tonics at launch, and 5 more were added later as free DLC, bringing the total up to 58. So, if you are playing an Xbox version of the game, you actually don't need to get all 58 tonics. However, while doing research for this video, I did see some people saying online that in certain versions of the game, if you collect one of the 5 DLC tonics, it doesn't actually count towards the 53 total tonics that you need for the Xbox achievements. This means that for some reason, you would have to collect all of the original 53 tonics in some Xbox versions of the game. I am not sure if this is the case for the original game, as I more recently played BioShock Remastered and I did not actually need to get all 58 tonics for the achievement to unlock. So, I would recommend that you just collect all 58 tonics anyways, since it's not that many more tonics in the first place, and if the achievement unlocks early for you, then cool. There are 12 weapon upgrade stations hidden throughout all the levels, so make sure you explore all of them thoroughly. These will give you every weapon upgrade in the game and unlock you 7 more achievements for fully upgrading all 6 of the game's guns. The reason that there's an extra achievement here is because you get 1 achievement for just upgrading any weapon 1 time. But be careful, it is actually possible to miss one of these weapon stations. This is a good time to mention a couple of the miscellaneous achievements related to an in-game NPC named Sander Cohen. I wouldn't really consider this a spoiler for the game per se, but if you really don't want to know anything about the game in any capacity, feel free to skip this part and move on to the next. In the level Fort Frolic, you will meet Sander Cohen. Without going into too much detail, once you finish this level, you are presented with an opportunity where you can actually kill Sander Cohen if you want to. Do not do this. Do not kill Sander Cohen when you beat Fort Frolic. This will lock you out of a secret area in a later level called Olympus Heights, which happens to contain one of the 12 weapon upgrade stations. When you see Sander Cohen later in Olympus Heights, now is when you can actually kill him and gain access to this secret area. Before you go into the secret area, make sure to take a picture of Sander Cohen's dead body, which will get you the Irony achievement, and you will earn 1 more achievement for actually entering this secret area. Speaking of taking pictures, you're going to have to take lots of them when it comes to fully researching all of the enemies in the game. When you take pictures of enemies, you will gain research levels on them. Doing so grants you several benefits against that specific enemy type, as well as various rewards, like tonics, which we mentioned before. To get 12 more achievements, you will need to max out the research level of every single enemy in the game. This includes all 5 splicer variations, both types of Big Daddies, the Little Sisters, and the 3 different types of security bots, drones, turrets, and cameras. Maxing out the research on all of these different enemy types will give you the Research PhD achievement, as well as 8 more achievements for maxing out the individual research levels of all of the 8 humanoid enemy types. I specifically say humanoid because for some reason, the robot enemies do not actually have their own achievements regarding maxing out their research level. The photos you take are graded, and at some point you are bound to get a photo with a grade of A on it, which will give you the Quality Research Photo achievement. And since we need to max out everyone, we will have to take at least 1 picture of every enemy type in the game, which will give us the Prolific Photographer achievement, as well as the Research Displacer achievement, rounding out our 12 achievements. When it comes to Plasmid and Tonic slots, all you need to do is purchase all 16 of them at a Gatherer's Garden station. Doing so will get you 3 more achievements as you progressively purchase them all. Keep in mind that they won't all be available at the same Gatherer's Garden machine, so make sure to stop by every single one that you see throughout all of the levels. This is the end of what is required to get all of what I would consider BioShock's collectibles. But we've still got a few more achievements tied to direct gameplay. First, hacking. We need to hack 50 different machines throughout our playthrough of the game, which is very easy. There's way more than 50 things to hack in the game. Just hack basically everything that you see. Make sure that you hack 1 instance of all 5 hackable machines, and that will get you 7 achievements related to hacking. Second, inventing. Similar to hacking, all we need to do is make sure that we invent enough items throughout our playthrough, and make sure that some of those items are the 6 different ammo types that can be possibly invented. This time though, we'll need to invent 100 items, so just make sure that 6 of those are the different ammo types, and we'll get 3 more achievements. There are 2 more miscellaneous achievements that are both very straightforward, just not really related to anything else in the game. You'll get the Toaster in a Tub achievement for shocking an enemy that is standing in water. You'll be able to do this basically immediately, and the game offers you numerous opportunities to do this throughout the entire playthrough, so this one is very easy. The one that is a bit trickier is the Lucky Winner achievement. This achievement is earned by hitting the jackpot at an in-game slot machine. all you need to do is go to any slot machine in a level, make a save before you start hitting the slot machine, with preferably a good amount of cash in your wallet, and just spin the slot machine until you hit the jackpot, reloading the save as necessary. This one is not glamorous and may take a long time if your luck is really bad, but that's why we make a save beforehand. You'll know you hit the jackpot when confetti is launched from the slot machine and you get $250 added to your wallet. Finally, our last 9 achievements are story related and unmissable, bringing our grand total back up to 51 achievements and 53 if you include the survivor difficulty achievements. Overall, there's nothing too complicated that we have to do to get this platinum. Again, really the hardest thing is going to be beating survivor difficulty. Beyond that, just explore all of the levels, save every little sister, hack, invent, and take pictures at every opportunity, and do not kill Sander Cohen in Fort Frolic. Do all that and you'll be golden. Now we can move on to BioShock 1's Challenge Room DLC. There are 3 challenge rooms with 4 achievements each to unlock. These challenges are pretty short, but each one is going to require multiple playthroughs, as unfortunately the achievements are set up in a way where they contradict each other. Thankfully, you are actually allowed to make save files in these challenge rooms, so with some careful planning you can actually skip some parts. For each room, the 4 achievements will be beating the challenge room, speedrunning the challenge room, getting all of the collectible roses in each challenge room, and a 4th unique achievement tied to each room specifically. My suggestion would be to get all of the collectible roses in your first playthrough and save the speedrun for your second playthrough, with a nebulous 3rd playthrough if you needed to get the 4th miscellaneous achievement. The first challenge room is called the Eye in Team. The 4th achievement, Pacifist, is actually going to be unobtainable if you're going for all of the roses in the challenge room, and is very difficult to do if you're trying to speedrun the challenge. I would suggest following an in-depth walkthrough on how to get this achievement, as it is very tricky and you're probably going to die a few times trying to get it. You'll probably need a 3rd playthrough to get this achievement, but fortunately this room is very short, so you're not going to lose a lot of time doing so. The second room, A Shocking Turn of Events, is definitely much more doable in 2 playthroughs. The first one where you get all of the roses and do the 4th miscellaneous achievement, Master Electrician, and the second playthrough for just the speedrun. For Master Electrician, just make sure that you explore everything in the level and make sure to turn the Ferris wheel 9 times before interacting with the little sister at the end. Be careful with this though. If you waste any of the ammo or crafting materials that you're given, you're going to have to start over. Again, following a more in-depth walkthrough is definitely a possibility, but if you want to try and do everything on your own, it will only take at most 3 playthroughs. The one that I'm going to spend a little bit of extra time on is the final challenge room, Worlds of Hurt. Unlike the previous 2 rooms, which were more puzzle-oriented, this is a combat challenge room, and it has a very difficult miscellaneous achievement called Tough Guy, where you are tasked with beating the challenge room using no guns at all, only the wrench, the research camera, tonics, and plasmids, and you have to do it on at least medium difficulty. This sounds like it would be a nightmare to actually do, and it definitely is if combat's not your strongest skill set. However, I can actually let you in on a little secret about this challenge room. There is actually a glitch in the game that lets us complete this achievement much easier than we normally would have to. If you start the challenge room on medium difficulty, once you load in, you can just immediately change the difficulty to easy, do the entire challenge room on easy difficulty, and then switch back to medium right before you end the challenge room, and the game will actually think that you did the whole thing on medium difficulty. This is a significant help for getting the Tough Guy achievement, and I would definitely recommend you all use this strategy to get it. It is possible to get the achievement legitimately, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. Also, something interesting to know with this achievement, for some reason the Xbox description of this achievement says that you can only use the wrench. This is not true. You are definitely still allowed to use the camera, plasmids, and tonics, but for some reason that's just not mentioned in the Xbox description, even though the PlayStation description mentions in detail that you are allowed to use the camera, plasmids, and tonics. I have no idea why the wording is different for Xbox players. When it comes to doing the speedrun for this challenge room, the only room that's going to make or break it is the Houdini Splicer room. It's the largest room out of all of them, with a layout that makes it quite difficult to reach the enemies that can also teleport away at will. I also believe that some of the enemies won't even spawn if you don't go down a certain distance. This room will take you the longest by far, so try and take note of where all of the enemy spawns are in previous playthroughs, and make sure to bring weapons that deal big chunks of damage and Electrobolt so that you can one-shot the Houdini splicers before they can teleport away. It's also worth mentioning that this speedrun must also be completed on at least medium difficulty or higher, but we can just use the previous glitch that I mentioned before to play the whole thing on easy, and the achievement will still unlock. Beyond that, as a general tip for this room, the research camera is going to be your best friend. With how the rooms are set up, there's a little area that you can sit that lets you just take pictures of all the enemies for free, letting you rack up the research levels on all the enemies really quickly, which will unlock various different bonuses that are really helpful for this room. And as an added bonus, the speedrun timer is actually paused while you're taking pictures of the enemies, so it is still very viable. So far, everything that I've mentioned can be reapplied if you're trying to get all of the achievements in BioShock Remastered. I'll briefly go over a few changes that are made to some of the achievements, but in terms of content and what you're going to have to do, it's all basically the same. The Xbox One version of Remastered still does not have access to those 2 Survivor difficulty achievements. However, the Seriously Good at This achievement, which was originally unlocked for beating the game on hard, has been updated and remastered to only unlock when you beat Survivor. I will point out specifically as well that in this version of the game, beating Survivor with Vita Chambers off will actually not unlock the Brass Balls achievement, which is unlocked for beating the game on hard with Vita Chambers off, for whatever reason. You have to actually specifically play the game on hard with Vita Chambers off for that achievement to unlock. This should not be an issue with the original version of the game as far as I know, and I'm not sure why it is with Remastered specifically, but just keep in mind that you may have to do multiple playthroughs depending on the difficulties that you pick and whether you turn Vita Chambers on or off if you're playing BioShock Remastered. There is actually another exploit that we can use here regarding this achievement. Very similar to the one in the Worlds of Hurt challenge room, we can actually just switch the difficulty of the game to Survivor right before we beat the final boss, and the game will act like we beat the whole game on Survivor, unlocking the Seriously Good at This achievement. I know this method works specifically for Remastered as I tested it myself, and I am not sure if it will work in the original version of the game. However, it's very easy to set up. You just need to make a save before the final boss fight, and just replay that final boss fight on Survivor difficulty and see if the achievement pops. Will not take too much time. There's one more thing that I want to mention about the remastered version of BioShock that may cause a lot of trouble when you're trying to go for 100% completion. I also want to state that the experience that I'm about to relay comes from me playing the Xbox One version of BioShock Remastered on an Xbox Series X. I'm not sure if these issues exist on PlayStation or Steam, as I haven't played those versions, so let me know if any of you have similar issues. It is the fact that Remastered's port was absolutely botched. Enemy AI acts extremely strange, there are many more physics bugs, there was multiple instances of the game crashing while I was saving it, and the most important part regarding the topic of this video, many bugs regarding achievements not unlocking properly when they were supposed to. For reasons I cannot explain, the achievements in BioShock Remastered always seemed to have a little bit of a delay when it came to unlocking when they were supposed to. For most of them, this would be maybe a 10 to 20 second delay. But for some of them, a week would go by and my Xbox wouldn't even be turned on and the achievement would just randomly unlock, with the unlock date saying that it was unlocked when it was supposed to originally be unlocked. I genuinely have no idea why this happens, but I guess at the very least the achievements are unlocking, so it's not that much of an issue in most cases. Even beyond all of that, specifically the Research PhD achievement, the one where you max out the research of every enemy in the game, straight up glitched out for me. I have a theory that it maybe happened because my game crashed at least 4 times while I was trying to save it, which could have caused some data loss for the progression of that achievement, but that's just speculation. The achievement itself could just definitely be bugged on its own since the achievements are already so buggy. Regardless, Thankfully, there is a workaround for this achievement not unlocking properly. Since the Worlds of Hurt challenge room that we talked about before gives you the research camera and plenty of opportunities to gain research levels on the enemies within it, you can actually gain the missing research levels that you're missing for this achievement in this challenge room. And I can confirm that this works because it worked for me when I did it. Finally, there is one more extremely minor bug that you're going to run into whether you played the original or remastered, and that is the fact that one of the audio diaries in Farmer's Market, called First Encounter, is incorrectly added to the Neptune's Bounty / Smuggler's Hideout list of audio diaries. Basically, the game tracks all of the audio diaries based on lists for each level, based on where you picked up the audio diary. And for some reason, the First Encounter audio diary, which is found in Farmer's Market, gets added to the Neptune's Bounty list. This doesn't affect the completion of the achievement at all. It's just a weird bug, and I don't want anybody to freak out if they do run into that while they're playing the game. When I played the original BioShock years ago on my Xbox 360, I had a very smooth experience, and I thought it would be a similar case when I went to recomplete BioShock Remastered. Boy, was I wrong. I couldn't believe how many more glitches there were in this modern port of BioShock, especially the one that would cause my game to crash while it was saving. That one was genuinely pissing me off. All of the other glitches were very trivial, didn't really affect the game that much, but that one was really frustrating, especially when it would cause me to lose an hour or more of progress. Again, I'm not sure if these issues exist in the Steam or the PlayStation versions of Remastered, so please do let me know if any of you had similar experiences with those versions of the game. At the end of the day, getting every achievement in BioShock is pretty standard. There's only a couple achievements that are going to be super hard and may give you guys some trouble, but we have the caveat of potentially making them easier by doing some difficulty switching shenanigans. If you're playing the game on modern hardware, be wary of crashing issues. The game is a masterpiece still, and is one that I think that everybody should get a chance to play at some point. And that is how to 100% complete BioShock and BioShock Remastered. It's one of my favorite games ever, so let me know how you guys feel about it in the comments, and also let me know if there are any tips or tricks that I missed while talking about any part of the game. That's going to be it for the very first episode of How to 100%, and also one of the first videos that I've ever recorded specifically for YouTube. Please let me know what you think about it in any capacity, as I'm really excited to do more and want to improve upon the show and make it the best that it can possibly be. I already have some other games in the works that I'm going to be making very soon, so please look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see me go through the process of completing this game, I actually have the Twitch VODs of my playthrough up on this channel. If you'd like, you could also follow the Twitch channel where I'll be playing all of these games and any future games that I 100% complete. I would really appreciate that. I hope you all have a fantastic day.